It's great to see a colourful motherboard in the office, as they're a brand that has had plenty of great products over the years, but they're kind of a less common sight here at eTeknix in terms of reviews. I'm even more glad that we have this particular one though, as Colourful offer up one of the most unique looking Z790 motherboards right now, with the CVN Z790D5 Gaming Frozen, and it should provide users with an interesting alternative to the big three, MSI, Gigabyte and ASUS. However, it's likely going more head to head with the funky designs that we see from brands like ASRock and NZXT. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video sponsor. Hello mate, you alright? Yeah, just got all the bits for my banging new gaming PC. Just got to put it together. It's going to be so much better than yours. Oh, right. What did you get then? The latest Intel 12th gen processor, a feature-packed motherboard and 32 gig of DDR4 memory. See? Miles ahead of yours. You realise that board needs DDR5 memory, don't you? Don't tell me you went and bought the wrong stuff. DDR4 is so 2014. I can't believe you was that stupid. What? No, you're joking. What should I get then? For me, I'd be looking at Corsair's newest Vengeance DDR5 kits, or if you're wanting that all-important RGB, then go for the Dominator Platinum RGB. Oh, you are a lifesaver, thanks, but where can I find out more? By clicking the link in the description below, of course. And you call me the stupid one. So, the super quick rundown. It's by far one of the most unique looking motherboards on the market right now, offering a silver and copper design that's certainly going to grab your attention. However, it's also pleasantly equipped with a 16+1+1 digital VRM design rated at 55 amps each, so it should be able to push some big boost clocks and give decent overclocking numbers easily enough. There's also PCI Express 4 M.2s, USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 10 gigabit per second and 20 gigabit per second ports, Wi-Fi 6 and 2.5 gigabit LAN. So when it comes to connectivity, it can keep up with, the big name rivals. But is there a little bit more to it? Now, let's start with the design. I mean, just look at this motherboard. Seriously, just stop and gawk at it for a moment. I'll wait here for you. Back? Good. It is without doubt as cool as they come, with that polished aluminium and copper design giving us one of the most striking aesthetics I've seen in a long time. Well beyond that, weird as hell Sonic the Hedgehog ASRock board, of course, but, I digress. I think the colourful CVN Z790D5 Gaming Frozen will provide a striking contrast in a black case, but in my opinion will actually look even better in a white PC build. It's going to catch and reflect RGB really well as well, which is great if you love to light up your build. I mean, even the PCB is white, which is really easy to see on the back. It's just a very clean and cool design overall, and something that's become a bit of a rarity. We don't really see white motherboards all that often anymore. The motherboard is also well equipped with a competent VRM configuration, along with a set of large heatsinks on the top and left side of the socket to ensure good temperatures and stability. It also comes with 8+4 PSU connectors to provide a little more power to the CPU and VRM circuitry, which we'll be looking at a little bit later on. Further down, there's a large M.2 heatsink on all three of the M.2 slots, albeit all different shapes and sizes, but overall they're all quite large and should provide ample cooling performance there. There's also a larger chipset heatsink too, and much like the rear I/O heatsink, it has got that exposed copper top, which in my opinion looks absolutely fantastic, but also has a design that greatly increases its overall surface area. Now, I'm not sure what the significance is or if it's got some relation to the product name, but there is a fighter jet theme here, albeit it's somewhat understated. There's a small jet on the lower M.2, there's also a small jet on the PCB, and also on the upper M.2, which looks to be some kind of a aircraft carrier. Now, I don't know why, or if it's somehow related to the CVN naming, but honestly, it looks pretty neat regardless. Finally, we have the rear I/O, which looks great with a matching built-in shroud and rear cover. There's fast networking thanks to both Wi-Fi 6 and 2.5G LAN, there's 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports and a pair of USB 3.2 Gen 2, with one being a Type A and one being a Type C. There's also a pair of display outputs and 6 audio jacks. So overall, pretty competent in the grand scheme of things. So a unique design and some pretty well thought out features. And as someone who hasn't seen many colourful motherboards pass through our offices, it's nice to see a feature set that could potentially rival the competition. But how does it perform? Well, as we all know, motherboards never really provide any extra performance per se. So when we test, it's more to see if a board performs within a range that we'd expect performance-wise when compared to other boards of the same chipset. To do this, we put the board onto our Z790 test bench consisting of an Intel Core i9-13900K with 32GB of Corsair Dominator Platinum 5200MHz DDR5 memory. Storage-wise, we use a Seagate Firecuda 531TB drive to eliminate any bottlenecks and a Palette RTX 3080 GameRock OC graphics card. The CPU temperatures are kept under control thanks to the NZXT Z73 RGB AIO, and everything is housed inside the NZXT H7 Flow case with all side panels closed to simulate real-world usage, which allows us to get the most accurate VRM temperature results. The whole system is powered by the NZXT C1000 Gold power supply, and all tests are run on Windows 11 Pro 21H2. So let's jump into those glorious benchmarks. Starting with 3DMark Timespy, and here the colourful is already off to a good start, nearing the top of our charts, only being beaten by 2 boards from ASUS and falling well within the line of where we'd expect. PCMark 10 Express is a good test for an overview of the entire system, and even here it's holding up well with a competitive score of 7,144 points, which is certainly within the ballpark of all the other boards. In SuperPi, we have a really good time here too, at just 4 minutes and 50 seconds. It's clear that the colourful board isn't holding back our CPU in these more demanding benchmarks. The Cinebench score is on par with NZXT's Z790 board, which is decent, and while there are higher scores here, there's not a huge deviation between them anyway. Generally, those with larger VRM configurations, which are also more expensive, tend to do better. For memory testing, we found some really consistent performance here too. Again, no record set, but it's really on the money, so nothing to complain about either. Latency is also about what we expected, coming in at just 77.9 nanoseconds and coming in close to the middle of our chart. Moving over to gaming and hitting 129 FPS is on the higher side for the motherboards we tested, and with some solid 1% low figures, again beating some higher spec and more expensive boards from their rivals. A little lower than expected for Horizon Zero Dawn, but really strong 1% lows again is a good thing, and something you wouldn't be disappointed with anyway. In Spider-Man, we have some solid performance again, this time topping our charts by a very small margin, and with strong 1% low figures as well. And then finally, Flight Sim, which again has killer FPS performance, topping our chart by 4 FPS. So top marks all around for this motherboard when it comes to gaming. So pretty solid overall, and in some cases topping our charts in terms of performance, which is always nice to see, especially when more expensive boards fall below it in terms of how they perform. So moving on to an area that really does differ board to board, and that's boot times. It's here that we see the CVN Z790D5 gaming Frozen not being the fastest, not being the slowest, but overall a pretty average boot time of 35.25 seconds, which is, in all honesty, pretty decent. So what about those all-important VRMs? Well, in terms of that, I was a little surprised to see the VRMs getting so warm on this motherboard, but at the same time, it also had some of the best gaming performance that we've seen. So perhaps it's not a terrible trade-off in the end, but you could likely maintain and improve performance by ensuring the motherboard VRMs get a lot more airflow. But even at 86 degrees, it's still well within safe limits anyway. So without even looking, based on the VRM temperatures, you'd expect power to be on the higher side. And that is clearly the case here, where the power consumption is a lot higher. Now, this is a little bit of a red flag and could point to why the temperatures were as high as they were. Again though, the power is going in and more FPS is coming out. So this could again be a trade-off that you might be happy with. But over 100 watts more power during load compared to the next worst board, it does make buying this board a little bit of an uneasy decision. This also means that the power usage is of course reflected in the operating costs, showing that an identical system with this board will cost just under 8 cents an hour to run. Now in the UK, where electricity costs are much higher, you'd actually be looking at a whopping 17 pence per hour to run the system at load, a crazy 25% more than the next most power hungry board. So I'm kind of torn with this one. Unfortunately, at the time of filming, I couldn't see stock of the colourful CVN Z790D5 Gaming Frozen motherboard at any of our preferred retailers, or on that matter, even some of the ones we don't prefer. But it could simply be that, I don't know, what stock was available was sold out and is waiting for restocking, but this does make recommending it a little bit tougher. I mean, I am glad that I took a look at this board, as Colourful is a brand I wish that we saw a lot more of here on eTeknix, as they have some real interesting and, unique product designs. Obviously, this board is a welcome addition to that too, with one of the most distinctive and interesting designs of any motherboard on the market today. I like the little addition of jets and boats to the design, even if I don't know why, but I appreciate that they are kind of somewhat understated. And it's the overall brushed aluminium and copper that, I don't know, speaks the loudest here. For those wanting a striking kind of PC build that certainly fits the bill, it's also well made, and as good as those heatsinks look, they're providing a lot of mass and surface area to cool the 2 rows of VRMs around the CPU, all of the M.2 slots and the chipset, ensuring that your system can run at its best all day long. Now, as you saw in our benchmarks, it's clearly all working well, as the overall performance was pretty respectable throughout. However, there is a but, and it's, I would say, quite a big but. The VRM does tend to chew through more power and then consequently output more heat than most, but it does deliver more gaming performance too. So I guess really I'm going to leave it down to you. You can decide on what's more important to you. Now, its connectivity doesn't offer much in the way of innovation, but it's certainly ticking all the right boxes for a high-end PC build. A good range of USB formats ensures you can hook up lots of peripherals, as well as high-speed devices such as external storage. There's also fast LAN and Wi-Fi, albeit that's all pretty much the standard for this generation. But overall, I can't really fault it, other than the VRMs and the power, which kind of go hand in hand. So the big question, should you buy one? Well, if you're looking for a unique aesthetic from your next motherboard, then this is one of the coolest looking out there. But when it comes to gaming, working, or anything else really, it does have the performance to keep up with its rivals. The only main kind of challenge here is finding one in stock and making sure that you get a little more airflow over your VRMs, because that's one area that falls short compared to the competition. The other thing is the power. Maybe you could tweak something in the BIOS to just rein it in a little bit, which would actually make the temperatures on the VRMs a lot better too. So that about wraps up this board. What do you think? Is the design and performance enough to overlook the power and VRMs, or is it just too risky for you to even entertain? Let me know in the comment section below. With that, if you enjoyed this video, then a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do, then consider supporting us over on Patreon, where you get access to tons of exclusive benefits, including behind the scenes content, bi-weekly game nights, a super special area on our Discord, access to our testing data, and much, much more. The link for all that great stuff is down below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.